She gave birth to 7 daughters, and that was the day her husband walked away. The morning sun rose slowly over the village of Umidike, painting the sky in shades of gold. Inside Okoro's compound, the cries of a newborn filled the air. The midwife smiled gently. "It's a girl." Ngozi, Okoro's wife, held her 7th baby close and whispered, "Thank you, God, another blessing." But Okoro's face hardened. 7 girls, Ngozi. Not even one boy to carry my name. He walked out quietly, leaving Ngozi in tears. Days turned into weeks, and Okoro's heart grew colder. His mother only made things worse. "Okoro, you need a woman who can give you an heir. This one brings only daughters." Soon after, Okoro sent Ngozi away with her 7 little girls crying behind her. He married a young widow named Mabel, promising her a brighter future. When Mabel became pregnant, Okoro's joy returned. "This one will surely give me sons," he told his friends. But when the time came, the midwife spoke softly. "Twins, both girls." Okoro's smile faded. He refused to name the babies, saying quietly, "Why does this keep happening to me?" Mabel cried for nights, holding her babies close. She thought love would protect her, but she was wrong. Before long, Okoro left her too and went to a neighboring village. There, he met Njidika, the only girl among 8 brothers. She was confident, outspoken, and proud. When Okoro told her about his past, she laughed. "Oh, don't worry, my womb brings only sons," she said with pride. Okoro believed her and married her quickly, thinking his story would finally change. When Njidika moved into the compound, she treated Mabel harshly. "You and that first wife have no luck. You made this man suffer for nothing," she would say. She mocked Mabel daily, took her food, and insulted her twins. But life had its own lesson to teach. Months later, Njidika gave birth to triplets. The whole compound celebrated with songs and laughter until the midwife spoke softly. "They are all girls." Suddenly, silence filled the room. Okoro sat quietly, his hands trembling, as reality sank in. After Njidika gave birth to triplet girls, Okoro's shame filled the entire village of Umidike. He no longer walked proudly through the market. Even the palm wine tapper laughed when he passed. "The man who searched for sons now has 12 daughters," they whispered among themselves. Okoro became restless again. He told himself, "The gods are testing me. I must try one last time." That was when he met Moyo, a beautiful and confident woman from the nearby town of Ehiola. She was a single mother of 2 boys, separated from her first husband. To Okoro, she seemed like his final chance to restore his name. At least she already has sons, he told himself with pride. He married her quickly and built her a new hut beside Njidika's. But Moyo came with pride that filled the air. She looked down on Mabel's and Njidika's daughters and openly mocked them. "You women don't know how to keep a man," she said. "Even before I married, I already had 2 strong sons. I will soon give Okoro another." Njidika, wounded and bitter, avoided her. Mabel only wept quietly, while Ngozi stayed far away, living peacefully and raising her successful daughters. Meanwhile, in a neighboring town, Ngozi and her 7 daughters rented a small 1-room apartment. Life was hard, but Ngozi refused to give up. She fried akara by the roadside each morning, while her daughters hawked it around the streets. Through sweat and sacrifice, Ngozi trained all her daughters in school. One by one, they began to rise: a nurse, a teacher, a tailor, a banker. Though she had no son, her name began to shine brighter than Okoro's. Months passed, and Moyo's pregnancy grew. Okoro was full of hope once again. "This one cannot fail me," he said with confidence. He offered prayers and sacrifices, believing this child would be the long-awaited son. When the day finally came, the midwife stepped out slowly and said, It is a girl. The compound became silent. Moyo could not believe it. Me. I, Moyo, mother of sons, have given birth to a girl for Okoro, she cried. For 2 days, she refused to touch the baby. Okoro sat outside quietly, lost in thought. He had spent years chasing sons, yet every path led him back to daughters. Weeks after Moyo's childbirth, the once proud woman became a shadow of herself. Her sons from her former marriage refused to visit, and Okoro's attention began to fade. He no longer called her my pride. Instead, he sat under the udala tree, silent and bitter. Villagers whispered again. The man who mocked his own wives now hides his face in shame. Even Okoro's relatives stopped visiting. There was no peace in Okoro's house. His daughters and wives fought every day, over food, over who would keep the small portion of yams, over the thin strips of farmland and the only dry sleeping space when it rained. Arguments cracked the compound like thunder. One hot afternoon, as they fought and Okoro tried to separate them, a heavy blow caught him on the face. He staggered and fell to the ground, shouting in pain. My eyes, oh! My eyes, oh! From that day, a strange sickness began. His eyes grew dim, his strength faded, and he could hardly walk. The compound that once echoed with laughter turned into a place of noise and bitterness. Pots burned on the fire, and children stayed far away. Neighbors crossed to the other side of the road when they passed his house. Okoro often woke in the dark, calling for a son to help him, but no one answered. Weeks turned into months, and his sickness grew worse. Pride kept him from asking for help even when he had no food to eat. Moyo grumbled every day, threatening to leave. His relatives sent excuses. The once proud man of Umidike was now weak, lonely, and forgotten. Rumors spread through the village that Okoro was cursed. Some people pitied him, others said, let him learn. The gods are fair. Weeks later, Okoro's sickness grew worse. Mabel, Njedika, and Moyo gathered their children and left. Soon, he was all alone, abandoned by the very ones he had once called his pride. When Ngozi, Okoro's first wife, and her daughters heard that Okoro was sick, they came home. Their hearts were heavy with old wounds, but pity and love guided their steps. They found Okoro sitting weakly in front of his hut, his eyes dim, his voice faint. As soon as he heard their footsteps, he tried to rise but stumbled. "Oh, my daughters," he whispered, tears filling his eyes. "Ngozi, I have wronged you." He turned toward them, trembling. "I was blind to the blessings God gave me. Instead of embracing you, I mocked you. I chased you away. But now I see clearly, though my eyes no longer see." The compound was silent. Even the wind paused. Ngozi wiped her eyes and said softly, "Okoro, the past is gone. We have all learned. What matters now is peace." Uju, the eldest daughter, now a nurse living abroad, knelt beside her father and held his hand. "Papa, I will not let you suffer. You will go with me to the United Kingdom for treatment," she said gently. Weeks later, Okoro lay on a hospital bed in London. The soft beeping of machines filled the room, and Uju stood by his side, watching over him like an angel. He reached for her hand weakly and whispered, "My daughter, you have every reason to hate me, yet you chose to love me. Please forgive me." Uju smiled through her tears. "Papa, I forgave you long ago. What matters is that you now see, not with your eyes, but with your heart." Okoro closed his eyes, peace washing over his face. For the first time in many years, he felt truly free. Uju looked at him and said softly, "Papa, this is to show you that female children are blessings. We may not carry the family name, but we carry our family in our hearts." Years passed in Umidike village, and time humbled many hearts. After all the rejection, pain, and lessons, life finally smiled on Ngozi and Okoro. Their 7 daughters, once mocked and called useless, became successful and respected women. Uju, the nurse who once flew her father abroad for treatment, became the pride of the community. Amoka, Chisholm, and Adis built thriving businesses. The younger ones married responsible, God-fearing, and wealthy men who treated them with love and respect. One day, the daughters returned home with a great surprise. They gathered the villagers and called their parents out of the old mud house. In front of everyone stood a magnificent mansion, shining white and gold, surrounded by flowers, cars, and joy. Okoro was speechless. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. "Papa, Mama," Uju said softly. "You suffered for us. Now it's your turn to enjoy peace." Ngozi looked at her daughters with pride. "These same girls they once called a curse have turned into our greatest blessing." The villagers clapped and sang. Even those who once mocked her came to celebrate, their hearts filled with shame and admiration. As the years went on, Ngozi began to travel abroad for Omogo, visiting her daughters in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and other countries. Everywhere she went, her daughters made her proud. She lived to see her grandchildren, boys and girls, all healthy, educated, and blessed. Okoro and Ngozi enjoyed their old age in peace, more than many who once mocked them for not having sons. Moral of the story: never look down on a woman who gives birth to daughters. Those daughters you mock today may one day become your pride, your strength, and your legacy. And for those blessed with sons, remember, it is not by your power. Do not use your blessing to mock another woman. God gives differently to each person, and His timing is perfect. A woman's womb is never cursed. It is the garden where God plants His miracles. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to my YouTube channel Marvelous Stories TV and click the notification bell so you don't miss any new stories. On Facebook, don't forget to follow, like, comment, and share this video to support my page.